Welcome back to Revenge Chronicles. Today's story comes from Ava Morgan. My name is Ava Morgan, I'm 25 years old, and in my family, I'm the one no one likes to talk about. Not because I'm cruel. Not because I'm irresponsible. But because I worked night shifts at a frozen food factory on the edge of town. I stayed in Riverton when everyone else left. After my dad died, the mortgage didn't care about dreams or degrees. Someone had to keep the lights on. That someone was me. While my siblings chased polished careers and framed diplomas, I clocked in, pulled on steel-toe boots, and lifted frozen boxes until my shoulders burned. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. To my mom, though, it was shame. At a family barbecue a few years ago, relatives asked what I was doing with my life. My mom laughed, not kindly, and said, "Ava's still figuring things out. She's helping out somewhere local." She couldn't say the word factory. Later, when I tried to explain that I was working overtime to keep us afloat, she pulled me aside and whispered, sharp and angry, "Why can't you be more like your siblings? This job is embarrassing." I swallowed the humiliation. I always did. I told myself it was temporary. That one day, she'd see my worth. I didn't know Mother's Day was coming. And with it, the message that would finally break me. That morning at work, during my break behind the loading dock, my phone buzzed. Family Morgan group chat. My heart tightened. The message read, Mother's Day dinner. Successful kids only. Ethan, saving lives. Claire, leading creative projects. Nora, our future lawyer. So proud of my accomplished children. She tagged Ethan, Claire, and Nora. My name wasn't there. Not even accidentally. I refreshed the screen, waiting for someone to notice. Waiting for my mom to add, and Ava too. Waiting for any sibling to ask where I was. Nothing came. That's when I understood. This wasn't forgetfulness. It was a decision. Successful kids only. And I wasn't one of them. Mother's Day at the factory smelled like garlic powder and coal metal. There were no pastel cards or brunch reservations there, just humming machines and the ache that settled deep into your bones after too many night shifts. I was sitting on an overturned crate behind a loading dock, scrolling through my phone with fingers still numb from the freezer air, telling myself I didn't care if I heard from my family that day. That was a lie. My screen lit up. Family Morgan group chat. For a split second, hope flared. Maybe my mom would send a simple, Happy Mother's Day and tag all of us. Maybe she'd say my name. Maybe today wouldn't hurt. I opened the message. Mother's Day dinner. Successful kids only. Ethan, saving lives. Claire, leading creative projects. Nora, our future lawyer. So proud of my accomplished children. Dinner at 6:30. She tagged Ethan, Claire, and Nora. Not me. I stared at the screen, refreshing it like that might change something. Like my name might suddenly appear if I waited long enough. My heart started pounding so loudly it drowned out the noise of the loading dock. Then the reactions started. Ethan sent a flexed bicep emoji. Claire added sparkles and hearts. Nora replied, "Can't wait, Mom." I waited. For my mom to add, and Ava too. For one of my siblings to say, "What about Ava?" For anything that proved I still existed to them. Nothing came. The realization hit slow and brutal. This wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. A public announcement of where I ranked in the family hierarchy. Successful kids only. My reflection stared back at me from the dark edge of the screen, hair tucked under a factory cap, hands rough and red, eyes burning. I felt the same hot, humiliating sting I'd felt years ago at that barbecue when my mom dodged the word factory. Except this time, she didn't dodge anything. She erased me. My phone buzzed again. A video call from Mom. Her smiling contact photo hovered on the screen like a challenge. I knew what this would be, her explaining why I was overreacting, why I shouldn't feel hurt, why I should just understand. I let it ring until it timed out. A text followed almost immediately. Hope you understand. Tonight is just about celebrating achievements. You know you're always part of the family. Always part of the family. Just not proud enough to be seen. My throat tightened. I wanted to scream, to throw my phone against the concrete wall, to ask how keeping the mortgage paid after Dad died wasn't an achievement. But I did none of that. I slid my phone into my pocket like I was burying something and went back to the production line. My hands moved on autopilot, grab, lift, seal, repeat, while something inside me cracked open and hardened at the same time. Every frozen box I stacked felt heavier than the last. Every second stretched. When my shift finally ended, I sat alone in my car, engine off, staring at the steering wheel. The group chat was still lighting up with photos and laughter I wasn't part of. That's when it hit me. If I stayed silent again, this would never stop. If I swallowed it again, I'd disappear completely. For the first time in my life, I didn't wonder how to make my mom proud. I wondered why I'd let her decide my worth at all. And somewhere between the hum of the factory and the glow of my phone, a quiet, terrifying thought took root. Maybe the only way to survive this family was to step away from it. The alarm went off at 4:30 a.m., same as always. The sharp sound cut through the darkness of my studio apartment, but for the first time in years, I didn't roll over wondering how to make my mom proud. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to my own breathing, feeling the weight of Mother's Day still sitting heavy in my chest. Something had changed. On the bus ride to work, my phone stayed face down in my bag. I didn't want to see the family chat. I already knew what it would be full of: smiles, praise, photos of a dinner table where my chair had never existed. The silence felt strange, almost wrong, like I was breaking an unspoken rule. But underneath it was something else. Relief. That evening, after my shift, I sat at a small kitchen table that doubled as my desk and dinner space. The light flickered overhead as I opened a notebook I'd had since high school. On a clean page, I drew a line down the middle. On the left, I wrote, "Stay connected." On the right, "Cut ties." It felt dramatic, even childish, but I needed to see the choice in ink. Under "Stay connected," I wrote slowly. Holidays with family. Not being the bad daughter. Maybe one day she'll accept me. I stared at the list, waiting for more reasons to come. They didn't. Under "Cut ties," the words came fast. No more humiliation. No more waiting to be chosen. No more proving my worth. Peace. Space to build a life on my terms. The right side filled the page. I dropped my pen and pressed my fingers into my eyes. Who cuts off their own mother over a text message? The question echoed in my head in her voice, sharp and accusing. I told myself I was being sensitive. That I should just toughen up like I always had. My phone buzzed. Against my better judgment, I picked it up. The family chat was alive again. Photos from the Mother's Day dinner flooded the screen. My mom beaming between Ethan in his crisp white coat and Claire in a tailored blazer. Nora stood beside them holding a bouquet of flowers, smiling like everything was perfect. The captions hurt worse than the pictures. Mom deserves the best. Proud of this family. My 3 shining stars. 3. Again, not 4. A separate message popped up from Ethan. Hey, heard you were busy yesterday. Mom was a little hurt. You know she didn't mean it that way. Don't make this a big thing. Claire followed. Just show up more with your career stuff and she'll include you. You know how she is. No one asked if I was okay. No one said the message was wrong. The problem, as always, was me. I set my phone down and looked back at my notebook. The words on the right side felt heavier now, not scary, just honest. That's when I realized something that made my hands shake. They weren't asking me to heal. They were asking me to disappear quietly, so the family image stayed smooth. I opened the group chat one last time and scrolled back to the original message, successful kids only. I took a screenshot and saved it in a locked folder on my phone. Not to torture myself, but as proof. A receipt of the moment I stopped imagining things. Then I muted the group chat for a year. My heart hammered as I opened my mom's contact. I hovered over her name, thumb trembling. The phone asked, "Are you sure you want to block this contact?" For once, I was. I blocked her. I blocked Ethan. I blocked Claire. I hesitated at Nora's name, my baby sister, who had grown up watching this dynamic like it was normal. After a long pause, I left her unblocked. My hands dropped into my lap. The apartment was silent. A knock came at the door an hour later. It was my friend and coworker Jenna Cole, holding a paper bag of takeout. She took one look at my red eyes and the open notebook on the table and didn't ask questions. She just sat down. I slid the notebook toward her. She read both columns, then looked up at me. "You already know your answer, Ava," she said softly. "You wrote it." My voice barely worked. Does choosing myself make me selfish? Jenna didn't hesitate. No. It makes you alive. I picked up my pen and, at the bottom of the right column, wrote 3 words in capital letters. I choose me. I didn't feel victorious. I felt terrified. And lighter than I had in years. For the first time, family wasn't automatic. It was a choice, and I had finally made one. The silence didn't hurt the way I expected it to. The first morning after I blocked my family, I woke up waiting for panic, the guilt, the urge to undo everything. Instead, there was just quiet. No vibrating phone. No passive-aggressive messages disguised as concern. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of rain tapping against my window. I made coffee slowly, like I wasn't racing against someone else's expectations for once. At work, something strange happened too. I started noticing things. The way the machines slowed down during shift changes. The paperwork that got delayed because no one owned it. The wasted materials no one bothered to track. Before, I had kept my head down, telling myself I was best a factory worker. That label had lived in my bones. But without my family's voices in my head, I started thinking like someone who mattered. I stayed late one evening and helped my supervisor reorganize the inventory logs. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. Within a week, production times improved. 2 weeks later, the plant manager called me into his office. "I didn't know you had this kind of eye," he said, flipping through the new reports. I shrugged, heart pounding. I didn't either. That night, I signed up for evening classes in operations management at the community college down the street. It felt almost rebellious, like I was building a future without asking permission. The messages started coming soon after. Nora texted first. Mom keeps asking why you're not responding. She says you're being dramatic. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. I'm not ready to talk yet. But I love you. She left me on read. A week later, Ethan emailed me from his hospital account. Ava, this is getting embarrassing. Mom cried at dinner. You need to grow up and fix this. I deleted it without responding. What surprised me wasn't their anger, it was their confusion. They weren't used to me not explaining myself. Not apologizing. Not shrinking to make things easier. At home, my life kept expanding in small, quiet ways. Jenna came over on Thursdays with cheap wine and takeout. We laughed more than we talked. I bought a second-hand bookshelf and filled it with textbooks and novels I never had time for. I slept better. Then, one evening, the past showed up at my door. I opened it to find my mother standing there, coat perfectly pressed, hair done like she was headed to a luncheon. She looked around my tiny apartment, eyes taking in the mismatched furniture, the factory boots by the door. So this is where you've been hiding, she said. My chest tightened, but I didn't step aside. You can't just show up. She scoffed. I'm your mother. I didn't invite you. That stopped her. Her gaze sharpened, searching for the weak spot she'd always found before. Do you have any idea what people are saying? That I raised an ungrateful daughter. That you've turned your back on your own family. I thought of the notebook. The list. The words I choose me. You turned your back on me first, I said calmly. I just stopped pretending it didn't hurt. Her lips pressed together. I was motivating you. Look at Ethan. Look at Claire. Pressure creates diamonds. Or it crushes people, I replied. For a moment, something flickered across her face, not regret, but fear. Fear of losing control. She straightened. If you keep this up, don't expect help. No safety net. No introductions. No forgiveness. I nodded. I already don't have those. Silence stretched between us, thick and unfamiliar. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You regret this. You need family. I met her eyes. I needed one who didn't make me feel invisible. Her mouth opened, then closed. Without another word, she turned and walked away, heels clicking down the hall. When the door shut, my legs gave out and I slid to the floor, shaking. I cried, not because she left, but because I didn't chase her. The next morning, the plant manager announced a new internal program. Employees could apply for a paid leadership track. Jenna squeezed my arm. That's you. I hesitated only a second before filling out the application. For the first time, my life wasn't being measured against my siblings. It was moving forward, loudly, in its own direction. And somewhere in that movement, cracks were forming in my mother's perfect picture. The first time I realized my mother needed me more than I needed her, it wasn't during a fight. It was during silence. Weeks passed without a word from her after that night at my apartment. No surprise visits. No sharp texts disguised as concern. I knew that quiet, it meant something wasn't going the way she planned. I found out why through Claire. She called me one evening, voice low, like she was sharing a secret she wasn't supposed to tell. Mom's having a hard time, she said. I almost laughed. Almost. With what? I asked. Claire hesitated. Her image. That word said everything. Apparently, My absence had started questions at her charity board, at church, at family gatherings where I used to quietly refill drinks and fade into the background. People noticed when the unproblematic daughter disappeared. She keeps saying you're busy, Claire continued. But people are asking why you weren't at Mother's Day dinner, or Dad's memorial brunch, or the fundraiser. I pictured my mother smiling tightly, offering rehearsed answers, losing control of the narrative she curated so carefully. And? I asked. And it's not working. At work, my own life was accelerating. I'd been accepted into the leadership track. Twice a week, I sat in a small conference room with managers and supervisors, learning how decisions were made, and who actually kept things running. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. I was being listened to. Then, one afternoon, my phone rang. Mom. I let it ring. Then, something in me shifted, not fear, not guilt, but curiosity. I answered. Ava, she said quickly, relief barely hidden. Finally. What do you want? I asked, calm. A pause. That's no way to speak to your mother. You showed up at my door uninvited, I replied. You don't get to lecture me about boundaries. Another pause. Longer this time. There's an event, she said. A family recognition dinner. Important people will be there. I waited. It would mean a lot if you came, she added. People have been asking. There it was. Not I miss you. Not I'm sorry. Just optics. Why now? I asked. Her tone tightened. Because families show unity. Or because you look bad without me, I said. She inhaled sharply. You're twisting this. No, I said gently. I'm seeing it clearly. Her voice softened, the version she used when anger stopped working. I raised you. I sacrificed for you. Is it really so hard to support your family for one night? I thought of the freezer air, the group chat, the words successful kids only. Support goes both ways, I said. And you stopped supporting me a long time ago. Silence. Then, very quietly, she said, what do you want? The question stunned me. Not what will it take? Not what do I owe you? But what do you want? I want you to stop pretending I'm a disappointment, I said. I want you to stop ranking your children. And I want you to say it out loud, not just to me. Her breath caught. You're asking too much. No, I replied. I'm asking for the bare minimum. She didn't answer. The next day, I heard she'd told people I was going through something personal and needed space. A kind of lie, but still a lie. And then something unexpected happened. At the charity luncheon, someone asked her directly, loud enough for others to hear, isn't Ava the one keeping that factory line running? I heard she's moving into management. The room went quiet. My mother smiled, too slow, too practiced. Yes, she said. Of course. We are very proud. For the first time, the praise wasn't hers to give. It was already out there. And she knew it. That evening, she texted me. We should talk. Properly. I stared at the message for a long time. Power had shifted, not because I demanded it, but because I stopped begging. And now she was the one reaching. We met at a cafe my mother loved, polished wood tables, soft lighting, the kind of place where conversations were meant to stay polite. She was already seated when I arrived, posture perfect, hands wrapped around a porcelain cup she hadn't touched. You look tired, she said. I smiled faintly. I work nights. Remember? She flinched. Just slightly. We sat in silence until she spoke again. People have been very complimentary about you. I didn't come for compliments, I said. Her fingers tightened around the cup. I don't know when you became so cold. I became honest, I replied. That did it. Her composure cracked. Do you have any idea how much pressure I was under after your father died? I needed you all to succeed. I couldn't afford weakness. I leaned forward. So you decided I was the weak one. I decided you were capable of more, she snapped. And you settled. The word landed hard. I kept the lights on, I said quietly. I paid the bills. I didn't fall apart. That's not success, she said. That's survival. And survival wasn't enough for you. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. You praise everyone who impressed strangers. You ignored the one who held the family together. Her mouth opened, then closed. I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. The screenshot of the group chat stared back at her. Successful kids only. Say it out loud, I said. Say why I wasn't included. Her face drained of color. I didn't mean it like that. But you wrote it like that, I replied. You sent it like that. And you left my name out like that. People at nearby tables were starting to glance over. She lowered her voice. I didn't think you'd see it as rejection. What else was it? I asked. She swallowed. I thought if I pushed you hard enough, you'd prove me wrong. So I was a lesson. I said. A warning to the others. Her eyes filled, not with tears, but frustration. You don't understand what it's like to be judged by how your children turn out. I exhaled slowly. And you don't understand what it's like to be judged by your own mother every single day. That landed. For the first time, she looked small. I need you to say it, I repeated. In words. Right now. Her voice trembled. I was ashamed. There it was. Of me. I asked. She nodded once. Of your job. Of what people would think. The truth burned, but it also freed something in me. I built a life you couldn't brag about, I said. So you erased me. Tears finally spilled down her cheeks. I didn't know how to fix it. You could have started by seeing me, I replied. We sat there, surrounded by clinking cups and murmured conversations, while years of unspoken pain pressed between us. I can't promise I'll change overnight, she said softly. I'm not asking for overnight, I replied. I'm asking for real. She nodded. I'm sorry. The words were imperfect. Late. But real enough to matter. When we stood to leave, she reached for my arm, then hesitated, waiting. I let her. Outside, the air was crisp. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. I don't want to lose you, she said. You already did, I answered gently. But we can build something new. On different terms. She nodded again, wiping her eyes. As I walked away, my phone buzzed. An email from the plant manager. Congratulations. You've been approved for promotion. I stopped on the sidewalk, heart pounding. This time, my success didn't need permission. The promotion didn't feel the way I thought it would. There was no sudden rush of victory, no moment where the past dissolved into applause. Instead, it arrived quietly, like relief. Like a deep breath I'd been holding for years finally released. I started my new role on a Monday. The factory floor looked the same, but I didn't. People asked my opinion now. They waited for my answers. When I spoke, meetings shifted direction. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. That surprised me most of all. My mother called that week. Not with an invitation. Not with advice. Just a checking. I heard about the promotion, she said. I'm proud of you. There was a pause. Then she added, not because of the title. Because you didn't give up. I closed my eyes. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. We started slowly after that. Short calls. Neutral ground. No performances. She asked about my classes. I asked about her garden. When she slipped into old habits, I corrected her, calmly. When she listened, I noticed. For the first time, our relationship wasn't built on approval. It was built on boundaries. Ethan sent a message too. Didn't realize how much you were carrying. Respect. That one word meant more than a paragraph ever could. Nora came next. She showed up at my apartment with coffee and an awkward smile. I thought you were just strong, she admitted. I didn't see how alone you were. You weren't supposed to, I said. That was the problem. We hugged, a real one. No guilt. No expectations. Life kept moving. Classes got harder. Work got busier. Some nights I still collapsed onto my couch, exhausted. But the exhaustion was different now. It didn't come with shame. One evening, months later, we all sat around the same table again, not for a holiday, not for appearances. Just dinner. My mother didn't introduce us by achievements. This is Ethan, she said. He works too much. Claire, she smiled, who's learning to rest. And Ava, she said, meeting my eyes, who taught me that survival is strength. I didn't cry. I smiled. Later that night, as I drove home, I passed the factory. The lights glowed against the dark sky, steady and unremarkable, and suddenly beautiful. I pulled over for a moment, just to look. I thought of the girl who once hid her job like a secret. The woman who measured her worth by who invited her to dinner. The daughter who begged to be seen. She didn't exist anymore. In her place stood someone grounded. Someone whole. I didn't need to be the most impressive person in the room. I didn't need to be someone else's idea of success. I had built a life that held me up when no one else did. And that was enough. It had always been enough.